But why don't we start with what Zach had to say after the game? And I don't know if he spoke with you guys about it. We aren't seeing him finish at the rim the way that we're used to, Cody.
Yeah, so he was 6 of 13 last night, and all 6 of those makes were from three-point range. So he had four shot attempts at the rim that didn't go in. It's probably worth noting that he got to the free throw line 12 times, so he had some opportunities there where he could have finished, but obviously got fouled by the defense. So, I mean, he's been open about that and kind of acknowledged it. After the game, he even joked talking about Javonte Green's ability to get up and go get lobs. You throw it up anywhere up there and he'll go get it, throw it above the square, a couple feet above. Then he joked that Derrick Jones Jr. can do that too. And then Zach said something along the lines of, I'll be able to do that in a couple weeks. So he knows this isn't an overnight process for him really to get back to 100% athletic ability and confidence in that knee that he had surgery on in May. So, you look at it and you're like, knocking down his three-point shots, like he's still much better option even when he's not 100% than what else the Bulls have when this team doesn't have a lot of floor spacers with Lonzo Ball out, doesn't have a lot of high-volume three-point guys. So Zach did his job. You can tell I think he's a little tentative still at the rim now, and you might see this for a little bit longer where he relies a little more on jump shots than maybe we've seen him at his best through the years when healthy.
Dragic Drummond is becoming a thing. I think we need to start thinking of marketing and branding, whether D&D or double Ds or whatever we're doing here, that they've got it on a string sometimes out there, and it is really fun to watch.
It is amazing. The one last night, the shot clock was running down when Dragic had the ball in the right corner and then drove baseline. And I'm thinking he's going to shoot a floater because he's got 1, maybe 2 seconds left on the shot clock. But he had the presence of mind that, no, I can do the floater pass to Drummond for the lob and the easy bucket rather than the toss-up shot. And he literally put that lob in with 0.1 left on the shot clock. So the presence of mind for that was amazing, and maybe it was just lucky that they barely beat it. But it seems like they know exactly what they're doing all the time. And again, it's interesting to kind of watch this Bulls team with Drummond, and then when you see Javonte obviously in transition, there are times they can just throw it to the rim and go get it, but Drummond's rebounding at one of the highest per 36-minute rates of his career. I mean, he had 13 rebounds last night, and I'm checking here, just shy of 17 minutes. Like, that's just a monster on the glass, and that is a really big deal, especially for a Bulls team that really got nothing from the backup center spot last year. I mean, they had Alize Johnson, they had Tristan Thompson at the end of the year, they had Tony Bradley, didn't work out, that's why he's their third string center now. Like, it's a really big deal for Drummond to be this good and this productive, and his comfort with Dragic is a huge reason for that, because he gets him the ball where he really only needs to do one thing, and that's usually finish right by the rim in a comfortable spot.
Cody, has Ayo talked about what he can learn from Dragic from a point guard standpoint?
I haven't been there directly asking him that about Dragic lately, so maybe he has mentioned that to someone else, but he's talked about in general learning from the vets. I think it's usually what Ayo references is how to read the game better, because in college, a lot of times when you're the best player on the floor, it's a one-read game. A lot of times, even last year when he's a rookie and gets thrown in the starting lineup, it's one thing at a time as you learn the system, as you learn your teammates. So when you look at someone like Dragic, I mean, he understands the reads for everyone on the floor, where they could cut, how one pass affects another, what a guy in the corner does right now, what a guy in the corner can do for us one pass away from right now. Ayo's not there yet. It takes years. It takes a lot of savvy. That's what veterans do. So I think he can learn some of those things from Dragic. But right now, I mean, they're obviously different players, right? Dragic, the more traditional point guard. Ayo more of the combo guard. Ayo's more likely to go slash his way to the rim and finish than Dragic would. You see Dragic all the time get in there, and he's looking to pass. And he's been a revelation for this team at 36 years old. I think he's got 21 assists and 4 turnovers in 5 games, which is just absolutely spectacular production when you look at it from an efficiency standpoint, the ability to take care of the ball. And you look at that like that matters, right? The question marks for Dragic mostly were on defense for a lot of the time. Like, are they going to get torched on defense? Well, it really helps when you take care of the ball, get a bucket, and then set up defensively and have your teammates help. So what they do on the offensive end does matter for defense, vice versa. We talk about that all the time, but I think that's one of the ways. And it's the Bulls bench has it rolling early, and it looks like I don't know if they're going to play as well every single night as they have 2 of the last 3 nights in wins against the Celtics and Pacers, but it looks like it's something that can be sustainable for being a strength of the team.
Yeah, and I don't want to come off like I'm criticizing Ayo, because I actually really like what he's been through 5 games so far, and you can tell that he's done the work with his 3-point shot. What was he saying that he did this summer? Because his shot looks like it's a lot shorter.
Yeah, it's definitely quicker release than before. I mean, I don't know that you call it pure, right? It's kind of funky by the way he releases the ball and everything. But he does seem far more comfortable shooting quickly, shooting a little bit on the move. Again, by no means whatsoever is Ayo out here running off screens, catching and firing like Reggie Miller or anything in those old days. But within the flow of the offense, Ayo seems to have a quicker trigger. He's been shooting at them a little bit higher rate. I know in the first 4 games, obviously, I think only attempted 2 last night, checking the stat sheet. So not as much last night, but he seems a little bit more comfortable. I think that's natural. I think you'd expect that. And really, maybe part of it is Ayo just understands he has to do that too with Lonzo Ball out this season, because Ball had such a high volume of 3-pointers. That was such a weakness for the Bulls, the ability to get up threes and make them on a consistent basis. Last season, just not a high volume 3-point shooting team. So Ayo understands what this team needs a lot of time in any given game. Last night, it was the Zach LaVine show from 3-point range. Ayo didn't get quite as many opportunities there, but I also like late in the game. I mean, the Bulls probably had it under control, but it still seemed to be in that 8, 9, 10, 11-point range. Drove in from 3-point line, went and finished a bucket that probably helped seal the game, make sure the Pacers had no chance in the final couple minutes there. So it seems like his decision-making, for the most part, has been good. You know, he was just spectacular in the season opener against the Heat. You're not going to get that from him every single night, but he's edging toward a little bit more consistency.
Well, the second unit has been great. Why is it that we're still trying to figure out exactly how Kobe White is going to fit into what they do? I'm not sure how they can maximize him in this other than just his catch and shoot ability.
Well, the reason why they're still figuring that out, I think, would be twofold. One right now is he's kind of spelling Zach LaVine earlier. I think in Zach's first game, season debut against the Cavs, Billy left him out there on the court for 10 minutes in the first admitted it was too long. Zach was kind of gassed. So he's been coming out more at the 5.5-minute mark of the first quarter, playing about half of it. Kobe comes in early, and it's like he's kind of with the starter-heavy unit. And then later he gets a little bit more tick in short stints, and Billy Donovan's been talking about this. Like, he likes the professionalism of some of these bench guys. And I think when he says this, he's talking about Kobe and Derrick Jones Jr. Like, he's only giving them 3-4 minutes a run at some points, and usually even as a bench guy, you get 7 or 8 minutes in a row a lot of the time. Kobe and Derrick Jones Jr. for the most part aren't doing that, so he likes how Kobe has worked there. But we're saying, where's his role? Well, the reason it maybe doesn't seem seamless is because Dragic is out there and has the ball a lot of times in his hands, has great chemistry with Andre Drummond. Javonte Green slides in there very naturally on the second unit because he's just going to mop up and do the little things for that unit, run in transition, knock the ball away on defense. Those aren't things Kobe does. So unless it is spot-up shooting, and then sometimes Zach LaVine's out there at the same time coming back in a few times, or Zach's replacing Kobe and he doesn't have that opportunity, there's not as naturally as big of a spot for Kobe to just be the primary shooter all the time on these second units. So, this is what you get. Kobe White's an NBA player. He's a role player. He's a second unit guy in the NBA. He's someone that the Bulls would have been open to trading if there was the right opportunity in the offseason, but Lonzo's knee injury helped point him back towards Chicago because they knew they'd need minutes. And now you got a veteran in Dragic doing a lot of work. So Kobe's not going to have a huge role at this time. The way this team gets injured, has adversity, I imagine he'll have a bigger role at some point this season. But for now, I don't think the Bulls are going to do anything to adjust, really. anything with that second unit when it's playing so well and they can rely on Dragic for those solid, 18, 20 minutes a game. I think he'll still be featured a lot, and Kobe will kind of be the riding shotgun there.
And a lot of suggestions coming in for what we're going to call this Dragic-Drummond connection. We've got Doctor here. Give me the news. I got a bad case of lobbing to you.
That's a long nickname, Dan.
How about Dragmond was a suggestion.
How about we just call him Different Strokes?
Okay.
Arnold and Willis.
It does sound like Stacy is already on that.
Oh, he's been on
Drummond.
it. He's been on that.
Yeah, there's been a what you talking about. He's seeding the clouds with all kinds of things there. I don't mind Dragmond.
I feel like we might need one
Dragmond.
for the whole bench, though, if they keep playing this well, right?
Well, we have to come up with another name, although they'll kind of lazily just be called Bench Mob.
Yeah, if they keep it up, we can ask the guys in the locker room for nickname suggestions. I think you need to do it for more than 5 games. It'll be interesting, too. Like, if Zach LaVine stays with the second unit, you could do something back in the 4 reserves, right, as a nickname. But Billy has indicated maybe when Zach's fully healthy, DeMar could go back to that. So we don't know who exactly is out there with the main 4 reserves at any given time, because Billy loves staggering one of his starters, too. So I think there's a lot of opportunity and time there still.
Cody, aren't we at the early point of the reevaluation process for Lonzo, like 4 to 6 weeks? Aren't we 4 weeks out from that surgery now?
We absolutely are, and Billy Donovan had basically no update last night. When we asked, and as he explained, it was not an update that the Bulls came and told him anything about. He didn't think much of it to go get one. Now that the media has asked, they'll probably think a little bit more about providing an update here at some point. But the main point that Billy shared was when they say they're going to have a reevaluation meeting like that, it's usually a bigger sit down, which, I mean, you get into semantics here, right? Because Lonzo's talking to medical staffers and doctors nearly every single day in his rehab, but there will be something probably slightly more formal and a little more intense coming up here where they decide how he's doing. And at that point, I would expect a little more information. But Billy, as far as he said, I know Bernstein had pointed out before, like, if he's got to keep going back to Los Angeles, that's a bad sign. As far as Billy knows, Lonzo does not need to go back to Los Angeles for any medical checkups at this time, with, I think, the key point on that, at this time still.
Okay, because I do like that he's been at the Advocate Center, that people are seeing him do some weight-bearing exercises. I mean, I'm not expecting him to play at any point this season.
Nor am I.
And I'm fine with that.
I mean, I would say after the All-Star break is probably a reasonable expectation if you want to be super optimistic. You're just going, like, you kind of seem to be on the pessimistic end, obviously, Lawrence. If you're looking at that middle ground and then you're looking at most optimistic ground, like, that's just what my sense would be, because it doesn't seem like he's close whatsoever at all still right now.
Obviously, we have to ask you about Patrick Williams.
Okay.
So how is he doing overall in your estimation through 5 games?
Not playing well at all. He's been bad. Billy Donovan said he liked how he played last night. I saw him score 10 points on 4 or 5 field goals, had a couple nice buckets, but he played 15 minutes, and I'm just staring again here at the stat sheet just to make sure he had 0 rebounds in 15 minutes last night. And that's got to improve. That's got to be more. Like, honestly, at this point, I'm more concerned with his defensive activity, whether he cuts to the hoop and whether he rebounds. And he did a little bit better job last night cutting to the hoop. So he deserves credit for that, deserves credit for finishing some plays last night. So better last night, but it's been bad, and it still feels like a matter of time, if it's this trajectory, that Javonte Green will replace him in the starting lineup at some point. But again, the Bulls, they don't want to make rash moves after 3, 4, 5 games, so I think they're going to keep giving him opportunity. But, I mean, Bulls Twitter has referenced this a few times. He's getting the Keith Bogans, right, where he comes out and starts the first and third quarter and doesn't play well enough to play another meaningful minute in the game unless it's garbage time. Like, that just seems weird to me, long-term trajectory for someone like that, because he's a completely different situation than was Keith Bogans during the height of the Bulls era with Derrick Rose and everything. So, he's got to do more on the defensive glass, on the offensive glass. He's got to be more forceful. Like, it was 2 or 3 times, I think, last night and against the Celtics, too, the other night. He's just getting beat on these simple pin downs and not understanding. Like, the Celtics ran an empty side pin down the other night.
Yes, he allowed himself to get hung up on that screen, but it's coming.
You got to go under or communicate with your teammate on that if it's an empty side, because you cannot chase when Vooch or no one else is by the hoop. Like, it's an easy dunk or layup, and a couple times like that, he's so late navigating these screens. It's so ugly defensively. Like, I'm surprised teams haven't put him through the ringer more chasing through screens, because he's so poor at it. And that's got to be better too. So like things like that, and rebounding again is probably a bigger deal even than just his point production on a night-to-night basis. And you just got to understand that and see the game or field the game a little bit better, communicate a little better. His teammates can help out by communicating with him too. But at the end of the day, it is on him in those situations, I feel like.